Tessa, we have got into the interstices of the details of parliamentary procedure, which may fascinate me, but actually is not what everybody wants to hear about. They want to hear about what should the British government do in relation to Israel and Gaza.
And what we have failed to do today is send a united message from our nation to Israel, but not just to Israel, also to Hamas. It's a mess. It's a disgrace. And actually, it's somewhat ironic that strapped across Big Ben is the word stop. Presumably, it's a ceasefire message to stop the incursions into what's now intended in Rafah. But actually, stop your monkeying around in the House of Commons. Thank you very much, boys and girls. It was shameful, Jacob.
It was appalling that the House of Commons was talking entirely about its procedures at the end. For
Talk about navel-gazing. Extraordinary navel-gazing when people are dying and starving.
Including me. I was talking about our procedures because they were being...
expect you to navel-gaze, darling. But of you.
Because they were being abused. But actually, we needed the government, the country, to be expressing its view.
And actually, the other thing is, and this is where it becomes so murky because we're in an election year, the SNP clearly trying to set a trap for Labour with their entirely unequivocal, ceasefire right now. They're kind of pushing Labour into that corner where I know they talked about collective punishment and therefore inference that Israel have committed war crimes. Labour backing away from that. The Tories, by the way, condemning the idea of Labour being given a second amendment on Opposition Day because they also want to trap Labour. So actually, both the Conservatives and the SNP got their fingers scorched. Arguably, the one winner who's managed to somehow straddle the chasm is Keir Starmer.
Yeah, so Keir Starmer's come out of this relatively well, hasn't he?
Well, only because nobody can really work out what on earth would have happened tonight. And I mean, apart from your audience and 650 in Parliament, nobody will be able, nor will they be interested. I'm not quite sure how interested they would be on what the views of Parliament are, to be absolutely honest, because it's one of these things about Gaza and the war is one of those kind of individual things which I don't believe a Parliament can encompass in a straightforward way. The truth about the matter is that VAR is simpler to understand than what happened today, and politicians created these rules and then they see them blow up on them. You made a good point at the end, but nobody was making this point as it went along, or nobody publicly. Look, I would like to have a nation that had one view about this. You're never going to have one view about this war. So even although it's nice for Parliament to say this is what's going on, everybody individually will have a view.
And what influence do we really have? Lots of emails have come in to GBNews saying, why are you talking about this? Why aren't you talking about the cost of living crisis? Why aren't you doing something that helps us in our daily lives?
It's a bit of PR. It gives David Cameron something to wander around the Middle East, and I wish he'd spend more time out there, actually, to be fair. A disastrous appointment, that, and typical.
Hang on a minute. It was Opposition Day today, and it was the SNP that put this vote on the agenda, and they did it to trip up the Labour Party, because actually it's the Labour Party, the broad church that it is, we know with its history of anti-Semitism, with its large Muslim support base, is the one that potentially can come unstuck. And Keir Starmer has tried really hard, and it's become increasingly difficult. So I think the best analysis I heard of Keir Starmer is he's like the man standing on the edge of the cliff. And either you stay on one side of the cliff or you jump to the other side, and he's decided to jump halfway. And because of the remarkable stupidity and backfiring nature of what happened today, he seems to have got away with his halfway jump so far.
And these
right, you're the expert on this. Will there be a vote of some kind on this issue? Because today we didn't have a vote. Is there going to be a vote?
Technically, the Labour amendment was passed and therefore became the motion. And that were the two bits at the end that Rosie Winter was doing, which nobody noticed, and there was huge noise objecting to what she was doing. It was quite extraordinary that we didn't have a proper vote.
What could the government do? Could the government say...
The government could put down...
go back to the SNP and say, do it all again.
You can have it another day. It could put down a motion to rescind what happened today.
Oh, right.
But it is really dangerous if a Deputy Speaker just takes it upon herself to decide when there is that much...
Is she likely to get the push in this, do you think?
I don't
and then
know.
there'd be shouts of misogyny.
But what's interesting, I think she was a little bit out of her depth. I mean, where did Lindsay Hall go? I know he got his knickers in a twist, but he shouldn't have left the house. He needed to come back and face the music. He was like Prince Harry sulking in his bedroom. I mean, the whole thing was a mess. I believe he was concerned for the safety of MPs, because this has got really ugly on the ground. People, both Jewish and Muslim individuals and MPs that represent those people, are feeling unsafe. And I think he wanted to give everyone the widest shout they could, and therefore included 2 amendments. But, you know, even the Biden administration looks more together than we do at the moment, with their Security Council suggestion for a ceasefire. Again, it doesn't go, as far as I'm concerned, it doesn't go far enough. As soon as practical. I mean, they sound like Prince William, but at least they're singing from the same hymn sheet.
Well, Israel needs to have a chance to win. Surely,
come on, how many more dead babies? How much more blood?
How many more Hamas fighters am I delighted to see killed? Which I saw that it was somewhere between 9 and 11,000 now, which is fantastic. They deliberately started this war, and they love the fighting that's going on.
Do you believe that? If you believe that statistic, do you also believe the statistic that 30,000 predominantly women and Palestinian children have died?
I don't believe that statistic.
All right, so you choose the statistics you believe,
I choose to believe Israel because at least they're a democracy. You're supporting a military dictatorship, is the truth.
I'm not supporting
You are
it.
supporting
I'm
it, Tessa,
the
and
end
you've
to
always
the
supported
violence,
it.
You're accepting
Kelvin.
their figures, and an end to violence now is a victory for Hamas.
It's not.
Is.
How can we call
Because they
two-thirds of the buildings in Gaza destroyed or damaged? 30,000
They
deaths.
survive. They're more than happy to sacrifice their people. They survive. They need to be rooted out. And we should back Israel
and
to
if
do
that
that.
effectively allows a very right-wing administration in Israel, I mean, it's
somebody
a
who is
nightmare
fighting on behalf of
administration.
1,400 people simply slaughtered in their beds. And the Hamas are delighted at what is going on. Why don't they just stop fighting?
Totally
Why don't they
unacceptable.
if they think it's so bad, why don't they stop fighting? If they're being oppressed in some terrible way by these horrible people across the border, why don't they just say, right, we're giving up now?
Well, most of the people who are being mullered in Palestine, in Gaza, aren't fighting. They're being killed in their beds. They're actually in danger of famine.
So here we are. We have hospitals there that say, I wonder what those people over there are digging that hole there. Anyway, don't worry about that. We have no idea. UNRWA. Oh, really? Hamas, a lot of our people are now fighting against Israel. Well, that comes as a surprise to us. It seems to me the whole of Gaza is made up of people who are absolutely astonished.
Oh, Kelvin, you're so naive.
Hamas is actually conducting war on their behalf. It is rubbish.
You clearly
they know exactly what they're doing.
You have no idea what it's like to live in a
hold on a
dictatorship.
second. Here we are.
We
We have Tessa from Lambeth explaining how she does know what it's like to live in Gaza.
Well, I do, actually, because my in-laws are Romanian and they lived under Ceausescu.
Romanian?
Yeah, and they lived under Ceausescu.
What has that got to do with it?
It does, because actually you have spent all your life, little England, wallowing in the liberty that allows you to shoot
a foreigner in order to understand what's happening in Australia. Is that the idea?
Well, you've suggested to me that people in Gaza have choice. That's what you suggested. They could call out atrocity. They could call out Hamas.
They could call out that there are huge holes being dug in the road. I wonder where they're going. Oh, they're going under that hospital. I wonder what those people are doing. Oh, well, they could have upped and took on the military dictatorship. That does happen. You'd be in favour of it. You'd fight it, wouldn't you, with your attitude towards free speech?
And I'd be dead. And incidentally, yeah, probably.
No,
and in Russia right now, are you suggesting to me that the vast majority of Russians, are somehow morally bankrupt or worse than we are? No, they're not. They're afraid, Kelvin.
Well,
they're misinformed. Or they're also misinformed. That's the other thing we take for granted. The wonderful free speech and free press. Again, wallowing in the delights of GBNews, always informing us of the truth.
That's right, that's what we do.
Yeah.
Even Tessa said it. We inform you of the truth. But thank you to my panel.